It's been over 12 months now since we had the last Home Safe Health and Safety seminar in Bilsthorpe, where we ran through the policies and procedures of our clients, so that we can obviously all be clear and ensure that everyone every day is home safe. A brief overview of what we've done over the last 12 months since the last meeting is that across the clients that we work with, that we deliver R&M, we've attended to just under 10,400 reactive call-outs to date. Of these call-outs, just under 2,400 of these call-outs were category zeros, where we had to attend within an hour. So this sort of emphasises the need that the engineers going onto sites, etc., have a clear brief on the policies and procedures that we use to ensure that every day everyone gets home safe. To deliver all of these tasks, we've obviously had to extensively extend our supply chain that we use to cope with the volume of work. So this has obviously meant us forming new partnerships with various different contractors that carry out different disciplines of work and of different sizes. So again, to do this, we've had to evolve our policies and procedures so that it makes sure that we are only recruiting the best competent contractors to work on behalf of our clients.
Morning, everybody. We do believe that Robert Woodhead's one of the leaders in contractors, but also in the support that they give to their subcontractors, namely you guys. So when you sort of see them continually asking for sort of method statements and risk assessments, policies and that sort of thing, it is about sort of sharing with you and partnering with you the information that you need to have to make sure that your employees are actually safe while we're on our joint sites. It really is a very clear message about everyone, every day, going home safe. And that, obviously, as we've heard from David, is the key strategy within Robert Woodhead's. Okay, so let's talk back to Woodhead's and the work that we do back on our sites. You will all receive notification of the job, and I guess you've all got your own systems in place, actually, as to how you pass that information down onto your contractors. You should always be given a call point, a point of contact, to actually discuss the works and including any emergency measures. And I think for us here, this is where we need your support, because quite often you are sending out your operatives, your contractors, your employees, or yourself are attending site without perhaps making the phone call to make sure that the person on site, the person that you need to, maybe the person that you need will give you access to you, is not actually there. They may actually be managing 2 or 3 sites. They may actually not be located where you need access to. So when you arrive on site, they're not there. It could be a wasted journey. It could be a time lapse because you've now got to sit there for 15, 20 minutes. Remember, sometimes the person making the call from the client might actually not know all the details, and they need you to help them a little bit on that point of view. I sort of said, if it's not possible to meet at site, then agree the permissions and understand the risks for you actually working alone. When you arrive at site, obviously the most important thing here is personal safety. And I think this is where then you've got the great tool, not necessarily my iPad in a pink cover, but you'll all actually have the site attendance sheet, the site attendance checklist. And here I'm hoping that all of your guys have got copies of the site attendance checklist actually in their vehicles, something that they can fill in for every site and every job that they go to. So quite clearly on here it sort of says, are you safe? Have you informed the part of contact that you've arrived? Have you secured your vehicle? We know how often expensive machinery and equipment goes missing from vehicles. If when we park them, we don't make them secure. Again, have we presented your ID and have you signed in? We need to see these ticks, and again, these sheets will need to be sent back to Robert Woodhead's once they've been duly completed. And unfortunately, unless they are sent back, then it means that we struggle to get payment for you. And I believe that's a rule that is now being enforced. Okay, so before we start work, again, hopefully your key contact will show you the site, show you the working area. Again, make sure we look at the asbestos register. Is it going to affect the areas that we're working into? And again, hopefully that person will demonstrate to you and show you their own site-specific hazards. You may have generic procedures and risk assessments for working at height, for changing a light bulb, for fixing an electrical fault, for doing this and everything else. But again, we need to make sure that you gather the information from the individual site. It may have some specific hazards that, again, it's up to the confidence and competence of your own operatives to actually ask those questions. What about this and what about that? And again, making sure that they are safe and not putting themselves at risk. Obviously, just checking if they do have an accident, we can make sure they've got some first aid readily available. Just checking the sorts of things from there. And obviously, if it's going to be a longer job, we're looking more for the welfare facilities. We obviously need to know about gas, water and electric, particularly if we're looking at the gas, electric or water on site. So we'll be able to locate all of those sort of services. Again, about the fire procedure, what happens when, and checking they've got suitable fire extinguishers close by to them. And again, all of those are suitably increased and improved upon if we are going to be doing hot works, for which we would need a permit to work application. Given the main focus of our clients, our key sort of public authorities, then we may be asked to work in venues where we have got vulnerable adults and children. So again, particular care, making sure that doors are closed and everything else as we go in and out. And again, all of that then, the next bit, it's all again on the site attendance checklist. So we're getting all of our ticks going through. So it really is all about working in with a clipboard and taking that sort of 2 to 5 minutes to make sure all of the information is filled in correctly. I've left this slide in for today. I know we're mainly talking about City Council, but again, when we go to our County Council and schools, and some of you are here today who maybe work on one or the other or both, then again, we need a contractor's form filling in. It's not for your guys to fill in, so don't worry too much. This is where about the school's competent person may just run few things. It's primarily about their due diligence. It's about them checking that they are allowing a competent person to work on their sites. So again, the onus is on them to fill it in. It's not another piece of paper for you to worry about. So again, we've checked everything before we start work. We're making sure we've got safe access and egress. We're making sure that the hazards are identified. We've consulted with Eric, and Eric says it's okay to go. We're looking at the competence. We're making sure that the guys feel happy to work, and obviously that they've got their own correct tools, PAP tested if they needed to be, serviced under PUA as anything else that they're actually using. And again, relevant PPE, clean and in good condition. Where we need permits, obviously they're all signed off in joint party with shall we sort of say, the point of contact by the client, whether that be the caretaker or the facilities manager, from that point of view. And again, behind all of that, you know that your guys have got appropriate risk assessments and method statements, and obviously cost risk assessments if they're using any substances that we would deem hazardous to health. I think this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky and about judgment. It's about you being comfortable that either when you go to site yourself or when you send your own operatives, engineers to site, that they all feel comfortable about their safety and the fact that they believe and are competent to make the decision that they are both safe to work and the work that they do will not jeopardise the safety of another. And I think that's quite key. And it takes an awful lot, you know. You've had sort of Woodheads phone you up and say, right, this has got a 2-hour response time, we trundle in the van and we get down there, panic, it's got to be resolved. And when they actually get there, you know, they're thinking, don't really like the look of this. I'm not really sure we've got the right controls in place. But the point of contact, what's he doing? What are your guys going to do? Hopefully, with the aid of the checklist, it becomes their aid memoir that they can actually fill it in and get to the point where they actually go, you know what? I'm not comfortable. I've got a couple of no's here. They're asking me to work on live electrics. So we want them to be comfortable and confident enough to say no. And talk through their concerns again with the client's point of contact. No, I can't work on live electrics. Can we find an alternative way of working? Can we perhaps wait half an hour until this conference is going to have a coffee break so then we can turn it all off? Are there alternatives? So my question to you is, are your guys comfortable in saying no to the client? So what we want you to do is obviously discuss those concerns with the site client, talk it through obviously with you as their managers, and come back to us as Woodheads, again, either through Sarah or through Paul, and we'll support and manage. We would ask that they don't leave site until we've actually gone through that trail. So they phone you while they're still on site, not happy to do this, these are the circumstances. You can come back to Woodheads and we can support you, probably going back to Andy and his team to sort of say we've got a problem here. Okay, or back to the actual client themselves and pulling off site if we cannot make it safe. So again, just to reiterate, what if the site contact asks you to follow them into a hazardous position? Okay, where you're working at height, maybe where there's no tow guards, where there's any adequate railing, that sort of thing, or into a confined space without any adequate protection being in place. What if the relevant information, the asbestos survey, in a building that was built around 1970, 1980 isn't available? Then the protocols, the procedures that Woodheads have been given by the councils that are in agreement, they're in agreement with the Control of Asbestos Regs 2012, if we're not meeting them, we shouldn't work. And it is as simple as that. Again, the councils are committed to us that every building will have the correct asbestos register, so we need to work that with it. So again, what are your guys going to do? And quite clearly, it's politely decline the invitation. Which leads us then on to the ideal way, and this is the ideal way. So when you start work, when you arrive on site, having filled in your checklist, it's a pretty good idea to take a photograph for the work area. So this is what I arrived at, particularly again with technology, and particularly again if we're going to sort of say no. One of your guys, if he's taken a picture on his phone, he can very quickly sort of forward that on to you. You can forward it on to us. This is the scene. This is the scene that my guy has found. This is the scene that my guy is not happy working on. And again, we can take that and feed it back. So again, just making sure you're actually following through your safe systems of work, making sure that your guys are not taking any risks with their own or other people's health and safety. And again, making sure they're aware of what to do and how to respond to an emergency. If they hear the fire alarm, where are they going to go? Again, sort of basic good housekeeping. When you finish work, make sure the work is left in a clean, safe and tidy condition. And I think that's very important. Obviously, sign out so that they know you're not in premises. So if there is a fire half an hour after you've gone, hopefully not caused by the electrical work that we've just done, they know you're not in the building.
That is our asbestos policy. I think it's self-explicit. We don't want anybody at risk. We don't want anybody exposed. We don't want any damage, mishaps, or whatever. It is a silent killer. What I just want to clarify is, I would say 90-95% of our sites do have a management asbestos survey on site. What I've got to stress is these asbestos surveys are for the control of asbestos within the site, and they're only a visual walk round. They're not an intrusive survey, etc. You cannot use these surveys for intrusive or demolition type works. Prior to starting on those works, you need to have undertaken a demolition or a refurbishment survey. If you're out on a reactive call and there's no asbestos logbook there and you feel you're at risk, don't risk yourselves. Don't put yourself at risk. Don't try and manage the situation. Report it. Roy is our asbestos compliance officer. He's contactable, email, phone, shout, and I'm sure he'll hear you. Yeah. He'll give any guidance and advice needed.